So our COVID-19 vaccine is actually developed in partnership with a German biotech company called BioNTech, and we started a partnership with them in early 2020 to look at a series of different mRNA platforms. And there are many different types of vaccines available across the world, many different platforms, but they all have the same goal, which is basically to train your immune system to recognize and defend against viruses that cause disease. Our vaccine actually contains information directly from the virus as genetic code, which essentially then helps to train the body's immune system to respond to the virus should it encounter it in the future. And in developing the vaccine, we saw and we recognized that we were going to need to move faster than the virus itself to develop a safe and effective vaccine, but also really importantly to ensure that our vaccine could reach all nations across the world. I think in this particular situation with COVID-19, it was all about speed, and we needed to collaborate with scientists, with organizations across the globe at unprecedented speed, at a pace that we'd never worked at before. But even though we were working at this pace, it was all about safety and efficacy of the ultimate vaccine that we were going to develop. We took no shortcuts, and we couldn't forget that ultimately, most importantly, there were patients at the end of this scientific work. So speed never came at the expense of patient safety. Typically, it takes some 10 years or so to develop a vaccine. In this case, we did it in 9 months. And the race against the virus meant that we were compelled to really operate differently. So much of the work that we did in this case was in parallel rather than in sequence. And we worked much more closely with regulators, governments, and healthcare systems around the world than I think we've ever worked before. So I've regularly had questions from friends, families, neighbours, strangers about the safety of vaccines. And I'm delighted, in fact, that they're taking the time. They want to really understand what goes into making a safe and effective vaccine. The most important thing to understand, and I'll start off with, is after the provision of clean water and sanitation, vaccination has saved more lives globally than any other public health intervention. And vaccines only end up being utilised in any society, and here in the UK, once they have gone through extremely rigorous clinical trials, which are independently assessed, and then through an extremely robust regulatory process, again, totally independent of any government, any healthcare system, and of course, independent of any pharmaceutical and life science company. So it's this independence that I think we can all take reassurance in terms of understanding the data, both during the development of a vaccine and subsequently in terms of surveillance once the vaccine reaches populations across the globe.